what is Kundalini, what is the self, what is Shakti, Shiva, or Shiva Shakti as we say, because Shiva and Shakti are one. What is ignorance, and how is ignorance structured, and how is it deconstructed so you can reach enlightenment? Let's discuss this in a little more detail. I hope you can see this. Down there you have the self, which is made up of Shiva and Shakti, and they are the same. Shiva and Shakti are one. Shiva means the pure being, eternally in itself, resting, eternally in samadhi. It is void, it is unmanifest, and never, ever becomes manifest. Now, Shiva and Shakti are one. Shakti is the creative, dynamic potential inherent in the void, in the pure being. So in a sense you can say when Shakti creates, it's a manifestation out of Shiva. That's okay if you want to say it like that. But for it's easier to understand if you consider the self to have two aspects. One, eternal in samadhi, resting in itself, Shiva, and the other, the outward flow into creation and manifesting creation. Now, what happens when you, as an individual, are created is that the unmanifest Shakti individualizes. Here it says I-ness. It individualizes, and when it individualizes, it condenses into what we call Kundalini. What then happens is that Kundalini manifests your entire structure of ignorance. And once that is manifest, your nervous system, how you think, how you feel, the energy in the central nervous system, the chakras and so on. And once all that is manifested, Kundalini goes into a dormant state. We say it's sleeping. It goes into a dormant state in a place slightly above the root chakra. We normally say in the root chakra, but it's actually in a place called Khanda, which resides like half an inch or an inch above the root chakra in the perineum, in the lowest part of the torso. It does not go completely to sleep, because if it did that, you would not be functional. Whenever you speak, it's a manifestation out of your individual Shakti, which is Kundalini. So Kundalini drives the whole structure and it upholds it. So Kundalini, when it's dormant, is said to have a downward action. That's a metaphor, but what it means is in contrast to having an upward motion where it begins to deconstruct or restructure your entire system so it can uphold state of enlightenment. In this drawing it says I-ness here. After I-ness you get I am. Many mistake I am for being enlightenment or self-realization. It is not. And above I am you have I am this, I am that, I am my thoughts, I am my feelings, I am my body, I am my whatever people identify with. In order to get fully liberated, you have to remove this I-ness principle. In other words, Kundalini has to go back and get reabsorbed into Shiva. Now, how do we do this? How do we awaken Kundalini so this process begins and can reach its fulfillment in an enlightened, liberated state? The easiest way to awaken Kundalini is by receiving Shaktipat from an enlightened person, an enlightened master, if you want to use that term, master. But he has mastered his Kundalini, so it's okay. But not master in the sense that it's someone you should bow down to or subjugate yourself to, and so on. Too many spiritual teachers are on that game, and it's pure bullshit. The real master is not interested in any of all that. He just wants to share his enlightenment out of love and compassion. And if he has worked with his own Kundalini and has taken the Kundalini all the way back to Shiva, so he doesn't have a Kundalini anymore. I don't have a Kundalini, it's gone, it's dissolved. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Then he might have the ability to awaken other people's Kundalini through grace. And this grace is an act of love, unselfish love, compassion, devotion to the self in the other. Now, I've talked about non-dual devotion in another video, but this non-dual aspect of the devotion to the disciple is what is the most important aspect of a teacher-student relationship. If the teacher, the guru, does not have this non-dual devotion to his student, he cannot awaken his Shakti, his Kundalini. So the teacher has to be in unity consciousness to be able to do this properly. And of course, before unity consciousness, you have God consciousness, pure self-realization, witnessing, or what is called awakening nowadays. And then you have your regular ignorant state. So to sum up, out of the pure void, the absolute self first manifests Kundalini. Kundalini then manifests or creates your entire structure of personality, your being in the world, or your structured ignorance. You can then awaken Kundalini, and Kundalini then begins to restructure your ignorance so that it, or your nervous system rather, your central nervous system and your brain, it becomes rewired. And that's why we call it an awakened Kundalini, because this rewiring begins. So we call it awakened to distinguish it from the sleeping Kundalini, which simply upholds the ignorance. The awakened Kundalini restructures your nervous system, your nerve cells, your body, and you can feel this restructuring physically. Kundalini restructures it so that your nervous system and your body can uphold states of enlightenment. When my Kundalini awakened, it was after I meditated for 6 hours in one setting from like 9 or 10 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for every day, 7 days a week for half a year, doing intense visualizations, pranayamas and so on to awaken the Kundalini. Then suddenly one day, out of this kanda, the bulb just above the root chakra, a snake like energy. It was very physical, extremely physical. It's about half as thick as my little finger here and about 12 centimeters long. It is silver in color, shining silver. It crawled up like through my flesh, penetrated into the spine between the lowest vertebra and the sacrum bone, in there and up through the spinal cord. And this snake crawled up, and when it reached about the heart, it dissolved into light, filled the entire spine, and flowed up, filled the brain, and then finally merged into Shiva and the Kundalini as a snake was then gone and I was liberated. This is irreversible. Once you've reached this liberation, there is no way back. And it is the doorway to living in perpetual bliss and love and compassion. Eventually you realize you're one with Shakti. Every breath you take is an expression of love for the divine and is this non-dual devotion to the self in everything as you, yourself. Okay, I hope that answers what Kundalini is and how it's the gateway to either ignorance or liberation, depending on whether it's in the awakened state or the dormant state. And the easiest way to awaken Kundalini is through Shaktipat. Shaktipat means transmission of Shakti, or this spiritual energy of the self from the teacher to the student. I'll do a 5-minute Shaktipat transmission to the camera. I have no idea how well this will work on a YouTube video, but let's give it a try. Okay, let's end here. If you pick up the Shakti, you might have a tingling sensation in the hands, heat in the spine, heat in the body in general, pressure on the top of the head, pressure in the third eye, or inner light. These are typical phenomena when people receive Shaktipats. Don't worry if you don't have any of these sensations after watching this transmission. Maybe it works through a YouTube video, maybe it doesn't, it has never been done before, but let's give it a try. Thank you for watching.